Hello everybody and welcome back to the Wolfenaars YouTube show. My name is Fraser. I'll be your guide through history's dark and mysterious alleyways. I hope you enjoyed our previous video. It was all on Öztas the Iceman and how he died in war or something like that. Very fascinating tale of human depravity and how we've never truly escaped our own evil natures. But now let's take it back a notch. Let's go into what we all know and love, chimps. That's right, we're back on monkey content. And actually I do know that chimps are not monkeys, they are apes. And technically I'm gonna fight myself in the comments about that. Bad move for me, but gotta love some chimps. Today we're talking about the Gombe Chimp War, which is a full-on genocidal war that sort of a single family, a single tribe, a single conglomeration, a single parliament of chimps. I don't know the collective noun for chimpanzees, but what I do know is it's time for you to like, comment, subscribe, and let's get into it. The Gombe Chimp War, just like us. Humans love one thing above all others: conflict. This is not only a feature of our species, but of all life. Competition inevitably leads to conflict. The only difference is our ability to organize and plot. Scientists believed for a very long time that animals could not hold grudges. They also believed that human babies couldn't feel pain into the mid-80s. So let's not get excited about science. Well, we should be. This all changed when Dr. Jane Goodall witnessed her beloved chimpanzees not only actively organizing for intergroup conflict, but committing calculated genocide and reveling in the act. Dr. Goodall would never look at chimps the same way again. And hopefully, neither will you. Propensity for violence. Today, we have a lot of examples of the capacity for violence innate in chimpanzees. Many Americans have lost their faces, fingers, and lives to our closest ape cousins. This is largely due to the USA having very lax laws when it comes to private ownership of exotic animals. Other countries have fewer attacks because people have less access to killer animals. There are no obvious parallels to be drawn here. None at all. Back in the day though, when people were just learning about the chimpanzee, everyone thought they were a gentler version of people, something akin to everyone's favorite vegan, the gorilla. Dr. Jane Goodall built the basis of our current knowledge of the chimpanzee. Her work showed the complexity of chimp culture. They were more than just the average ape. Chimps used tools, lived deep social lives, and up until 1974 were believed to be very peaceful creatures. Starting in 74, Dr. Goodall bore witness to a behavioral phenomenon that had long only been attributed to Homo sapiens. The chimps of Gombe National Park went to war. Her beliefs were shaken to their core. Gone were the naive notions of the peaceful ape. Chimp kind would prove capable of depraved violence that left the doctor with recurring nightmares and deep psychological trauma. The 4-year war, genocide in Gombe. At first, there were 3 separate groups of chimpanzees in Gombe. The Kasakila in the north, and the south shared by the Kokombe and Mkenke groups. Each of the groups had roughly 40 members. Males would often form raiding parties and make forays into rivals' territories. Their attacks were rarely fatal and often targeted only the weakest members of the target groups. Dr. Goodall noticed the dominant Kasakila group's integrity breaking down in 1971. Longtime leader Leakey was in decline. He had lived a long life, and it would soon become apparent that his influence was the only thing holding the Kasakila together. 6 of the 14 Kasakila males began spending their time away from the main group. They were labeled the Southern Subgroup by the researchers. Leadership in the Southern Subgroup was divided between 2 brothers, Hugh and Charlie. They took Goliath, Dee, Sniff, and Goody with them when they left. The Kasakila males struggled to find a leader. Humphrey eventually ascended to Leakey's old role. He led Rudolph, Sherry, Everett, Jornio, Figan, Mike, and the aptly named Satan. Both groups slowly began to display hostility to the other. Though aggressive to the Southerners, the northern males rarely ventured south. Hugh and Charlie's group did not reciprocate. Dr. Goodall and her team came to recognize the schism as permanent. They renamed the southern subgroup Kahama. Males from both groups were soon seen screeching at each other and engaging in aggressive displays of strength. 3 years of escalating tensions would reach a boiling point in 1974 when the Kasakila drew first blood. Researchers watched a group of 6 northern chimps venture south. The Kasakila were often the victim of raiding behavior, and it seemed they were ready to give as good as they got. Goodall, a Kahama male, was eating fruit in a tree alone. He did not hear the Kasakila war party's approach. Their attack was as swift as it was brutal. Goodall tried to flee. One of the aggressors caught him by the foot and swung him overhead to land amidst the Kasakilas. They pummeled the stunned Goodall with their fists, stomped on him with their feet, tore at his limbs with their nails, and repeatedly bit into him with their fangs. Goodall was left to slowly succumb to his wounds. He would be discovered by its group, who mourned his death. The Kahama were now down to 5 males. D was the next casualty. Kasakila attacks continued for the next 4 years. They systematically murdered the Kahama males, ignoring the females. Dr. Goodall would later write of a particularly disturbing attack on Goliath. The older male, who had once been a high-ranking member of the Kasakila, had remained on good terms with his former groupmates. Goliath saw his old friend Satan approaching with 4 other Kasakilas. He greeted them in friendship, hand outstretched. Goliath was severely beaten, in a display of violence that made the attack on Goodall look like play. One of his attackers broke Goliath's leg and was observed twisting it in an attempt to detach the limb. Satisfied with their victory, the Kasakila war party took to the trees in celebration. They hollered among the branches, drummed on tree trunks, and threw rocks. As Goliath lay dying, Satan approached him. The old chimp looked at his old friend with an expression of disbelief and fear, likely hoping for some comfort. Satan cupped his hands to Goliath's face, catching the blood gushing from a head wound. He brought the blood to his mouth and drank deeply of it before joining the celebration. Dr. Jane Goodall suffered from recurring nightmares following this attack. Her paradigm had been shattered, and she was forced to rethink her beliefs about chimpanzee behavior. More Kahama males were killed in similar fashion, until the only survivor was young Sniff. He lived a life of solitary fear, narrowly evading the Kasakila death squad sent out to find him. Luck ran out for Sniff in 1978. His death marked the end of the Kahama group. Following the Gombe Chimp War, Dr. Jane Goodall wrote this: "For so many years, I had believed that chimpanzees, while showing an uncanny similarity to humans, in many ways were, by and large, rather nicer than us. Suddenly, I found that under certain circumstances, they could be just as brutal." And that is the story of the Gombe Chimp War, proving once and for all that not only are animals as emotional as us, but they can be just as evil and depraved. So, that was a heavy story. Sorry about that. It is fascinating to note, though, that warfare is potentially just something that is inherent to all apes, that it's not something that is unique to our species, and that is comforting in its own way. But let me know what you think. Do you think that apes are just as evil as us? Do you think that war is not necessarily an evil act, as I do? Yeah, share your thoughts, share other stories that you want to hear. If you enjoy animal content, I've got a lot more articles. You can go on the website, look for them, pop the comment in the bottom, and I will get to them. You can find the link to this article and many more down below in the video description. And until next time, you stay smart.